Good day, everyone. I am Rose Nina B. Abadenas, the reporter. I am going to discuss something about Chapter 9, the right of innkeepers. However, to start my report, I would like to introduce the topic. Why did patrons become the lifeblood of both hotels and restaurants? Well, patrons are the target markets, or those people who spend for themselves just to experience something like good services. Either it's intangible or tangible. It's a business benefit, as patrons are crucial to making the hotel or restaurant function consistently and to meet good profit. They became the blood as the hotel relied on them as they are the contributors to its success. The more customers, the more income. Thus, the hotel and restaurant must offer all the best that they could in order to bring satisfaction. As we all know, we don't know the attitudes of every guest. Therefore, there are guests who are belligerent, or should I say, aggressive. Hence, there are many entitled people in the world. This type of guest will evidently affect the other guest, especially to their enjoyment during their stay, because once there is someone who will cause chaos, the enjoyment will turn into regret or being terrified and disappointed. They won't be satisfied with their visit. If they won't enjoy their stay, there is word of mouth that could also affect the profit, as the old guest won't go back and will have negative feedback regarding their experience within that place. The people who don't experience it won't be encouraged to go there, so it has a massive impact on the business as it will decrease customer engagement, which will put the business into a serious downfall. In the second page, we need to discuss what is right to exclude non-guests. So, here we begin. The one who manages the hotel or restaurants invites everyone to visit the place to check in there and to be their future guests, to be able to try the unique services that they could offer. The best way to invite the guest is to have an advertisement to encourage them to try and to choose the specific place for their benefits. However, the public presence of the guest on the premises does not constitute a trespass, but it depends on the specific circumstances. They need to check it to avoid trespassing the place. What is trespassing? It is when someone will go to the place uninvited. It is entering someone's property without permission. If ever the person enters the hotel or restaurant, there is an implied license to be at that place for the purpose of conducting the business. The example for this is they are going to check in at the hotel. The innkeeper has the right to control who can enter the premises. That's why they can revoke the implied license to be at that place anytime. Those who didn't plan to be guests in the hotel aren't permitted. They need to leave the premises immediately, or else they will face the consequence, which is going to compensate for trespassing. Just like what I said, those people who are forbidden to the place must not be there. And if it's stubborn enough to leave the place, it will become a trespasser, and it will face the consequence of entering the prohibited. It's the chaos that the uninvited person is liable for. If the trespasser is really stubborn, the worker must force it to leave the area, and it will turn into an embarrassing moment for that person due to showing while uninvited. However, not only the trespasser could be liable for what happened. The hotelier or restaurer could be liable also, especially if they make the non-guest injured through urging them to leave the place. The non-guest could file a lawsuit against them due to experiencing physical injury within that area that might lead to making the hotel or restaurant compensate. If there is an aggressive non-guest who still won't leave the place, even if they are asked to, much better to ask for the police officer's help to settle or handle this matter accurately, as they were knowledgeable enough to fix everything and to avoid causing them injuries that will make the hotel and restaurant liable. So next, I am going to discuss refusing lodging to a would-be guest. If the hotel rooms are available and guest wants to check in, this cannot be refused as this is a breach of contract. Much better to give them the available rooms for occupancy to avoid risking the business. No matter what time the guest arrives, if it needs accommodation, as long as there is an available room, this must be offered to them so that they will be able to and they won't complain. I am going to tackle the exceptions of giving hotel rooms. First, the hotel can refuse when the guest plans to check in if it's fully booked or under renovation, because there is no room available that they could offer anymore. Thus, the guest must find another hotel that has an available room for the temporary accommodation. Second, in giving a room, the front office will ask for its ID, so evidently the record of the person will be identified. If ever that person is a criminal, they must not be given an accommodation for safety purposes of both employees and guests. The hotel must not accept those customers who are so drunk and have taken drugs to avoid chaos that might affect other guests and the business reputation as well. If the guest is also untidy, it will only destroy the image of the hotel. So, it's also okay to refuse giving rooms to such persons. If the person looks dirty, it will also be judged by the appearance. If we will enter the hotel, especially if it's known, it is necessary to dress well, to have proper hygiene, as it is a standard that needs to be maintained for the business reputation, and to not affect the other guests who don't like something unclean. Suffering from contagious diseases such as pneumonia, tuberculosis, hepatitis, and others. If the guest has this, they must not be given a room to avoid harming the health of the other guests and employees. It's for health and safety. The last one, the guest who has a bad background is allowed to be refused entry to the hotel. In hotels, it's really needed to pay in advance to get the room, and if you fail to do so, the room must be given to someone else. If you need to go to the hotel, you are responsible for paying to secure the hotel. You are responsible for paying to secure the room, because in business, money matters. Also, person with firearms or explosives, they must not enter the hotel, as they might cause harm or scare the other guests. Safety is needed to be a number one priority, because the more the place is safe, the more guests will come back and go there as they have security. And if the number of guests increases, it is a benefit for the hotel's profit.
So, consequences of a wrongful refusal. Excluded guests can sue for damages. So, what are the consequences of a wrongfully refusing a guest? One establishment wrongfully refusing a guest. So, the consequence of this is fines and penalties and lawsuit for damages. And then, if the establishment nag-refuse siya sa guests based on their ethnicity, their race, their sex or religion, and then their disability, a guest can sue a anti-discrimination law. And then when a hotel when a hotel denies accommodation for a guest without any valid reason, a guest can sue damages. So one of the example of this is that na isa ka traveler nga nag-book siya sa isa ka hotel, and then pag-abot niya sa hotel nga iyang gibukan kay kanang nag-deny bitaw ang katong hotel nga iyang gibukan, and then nag-ingon sila nga naay overbooking, and then so naka-cause siya og damage sa guest, then ma-force ang guest nga mobalhin og different nga hotel, so mag-cost pa og another expenses na pud. And then kato si guest pwede siya maka sa damage nga nabuhat sa hotel sa iyaa. So like what I've said, if a refusal is based on race, religion, sex, or disability, a hotel must pay fines or penalties for their wrongful exclusion in addition to damages. So for example, ang isa ka hotel kay kuan bitaw siya kanang iyaang ay naay murag dili fair ang treatment sa iyang isa ka kuan sa isa ka guest, kay lagi tungod lahi iyang religion ba, or lahi iyang race, or lahi iyang sex niya. Naka-feel bitaw ang guest og like murag na discriminate siya or dili fair ang treatment, kay pwede siya makasu sa hotel for the damage nga gi-cause sa hotel. Okay, matawag naman siya nga discrimination. And then naman po law, nanay law for anti-discrimination law. So, age is not protected class in places of a public accommodation under federal civil rights law or most state law. So, therefore, a restaurant could refuse to serve a young person if it was inclined. So dili pud siya matawag nga discrimination if mo refuse ka og serve sa isa ka younger person, kay nakasaad sa under the Civil Rights Act of 1964 that prohibits discrimination in public accommodation is based on race, color, religion, or national origin, so it does not include age as a protected characteristic. But kanang sa mga nagtrabaho og mga restaurant, kay di ba usually mga employee or server, kay wala sila ginapili nga edad kung kinsa ila ang servant, as long as gido nila ang ilang duty. But sa when it comes to innkeepers and restaurant, na sila like different ila ang situation. So sa ang mga innkeepers or mga employees sa hotel industry, sa hotel establishment, kay pwede sila mo refuse, o if naay isa ka pwede sila mo refuse sa isa ka guest nga minor. Well, ma-discuss man na siya sa refusing a guest lodging. And then well, na-discuss naman nato before nga kanang ang minor kay dili maka-sign og contract, or either ma-void ang contract if mahibalaan nga minor ang ga-perma sa contract. So di ba na-discuss nato before nga pwede ma-void ang contract if once mahibalaan nga minor ang nagperma sa contract. So there is a case nga ang minor na grant og room and then and then and then hibalaan sa innkeeper nga minor ang nag-rent sa isa ka room, and then wala siya na full o bayad ang room. So liable ba si innkeeper sa damage nga na-cause sa minor? So ang answer is no. Dili liable si innkeeper sa damage nga na-cause ni minor, kay as far as we've known that ma-cancel ang kontrata if minor ang if may bala na to nga minor, but the thing is ang necessity nga gi ano ni minor kay liable siya ato, like sa accommodation and then sa food na iya ang gikuan. So liable, so further, parents are liable for the necessities nga gi-furnish sa ilang minor nga children. So if ang minor or they refuse to pay, then the hotel can pursue the minor's parent. So entering the guest room, so an innkeeper or a hotel staff or employee may enter the guest rooms only for a specific or justified reason to respect the guest's privacy while maintaining operational and safety requirements. So like normal maintenance and repair. So ang hotel staff or innkeeper may enter the room if naay need nga i-perform nga maintenance ang isa ka room while naa ang guest. Like for example, ang guest kay nanawag sa front desk nga nagmalfunction ang iyang shower, and then ang hotel maintenance kay pwede siya ma-enter sa room para ma-fix to nga issue with consent nga ma-enter siya with consent sa guest. Next is imminent danger. So example of this is kanabitong kanang ang guest kay nanawag sa front desk nga naay nag-leak nga ang iyaang room kay nakadetect og, di ba, ang hotel kay naman jud nay kanang smoke detection. Then if ang isa ka guest kay nanawag sa hotel nga naay nag-warn sign ng iya ang smoke detection, is pwede kayo mo enter ang hotel employee. And then the third one is non-payment. So if a guest fails to pay for their stay or services and attempt to avoid communication, so the hotel has the right to enter the room to recover property or check occupancy. So one of the example of this is kanabitong ting check out na. Diba usually ang check out sa hotel is 2 p.m. So if manawag man jud na permi ang front desk sa room ngating check out na, and then if kanang dili bitaw matubag or wala gitubag sa guest ang call gikan sa front desk, is adtuon na siya sa hotel staff sa adto nga room, and then check if naapa ba ang guest didto or wala na. If kung naapa ang guest, so naay right if naapa ang guest dito, i-ask na sa hotel staff if mag-extend ba ilang stay, if i-extend ba nila ilang stay, or mo hawa na sila. And then kung so naay right ang ang hotel staff nga magpahawa sa employee if dili sila mo extend and dili sila mo bayad. So the fourth one is requesting by the guest. So a hotel staff can enter upon a direct request by the guest, such as the housekeeping, room service, or delivery for request of an item. So one of the example of this is kanang kanang employee kanang guest nga magpa-room ay kanang manawag sa room service, pwede mo enter ang hotel ang hotel employee if mananghid lang og tarong sa guest, pwede sila maka-enter. So, pwede sila maka-enter kay gi-request man sa guest. Next is emergencies conditions impose a duty to enter a guest room to eliminate the danger. So, one of the example of this is kanang ang hotel employee kay nanawag sa isa ka guest sa isa ka room sa isa ka guest, and then wala bitaw respond sa guest, like kapila na og try og call on niya, walay respond jud. So as a hotel employee, ang nag-care sila ang guest is nasa lay right nga mo enter dito sa room sa guest to ensure safetyness sa guest. Next is evicting a guest. So right to withdraw of privileges. So hotels have the legal authority to evict a guest under reasonable and lawful circumstances, including a non-payment of bills, kada bitong kanang magtuga-tuga o check-in unya wala day ikabayad if mag-extend nga case. And then disruptive of illegal behavior, and then pwede po ma-evict ang guest for violation of hotel policies, such as kanang pwede nila ma-evict ang guest if kanang bitaw maginahi na jud, mag-warning man na sila. If dili na jud madala og warning, then pwede sila maka-evict og guest. And then threats or harm to other guests or staff, kanang pwede nasa lay right ang establishment nga mopahawa og guest if kanang mag-among-among or magsamok-samok na bitaw sa staff or sa employee if dili na jud madala og badlong. No more use of force than is necessary, but however naman jud uban nga guest nga bitaw gahi nag-ulo nga kanang kuntay, for example kanang hubog nga guest nga mga hubog nga guest. So dili man nato sila madala-dala og istorya kay hubog man. So mag-use lang gyud tag minimal force para mapakalma or mapahawa nato nga guest if kanang dili na nato ma-control bitaw siya. So mag-use lang tag minimal force, although di siya necessary, but di man jud malikayan. So these are the list of grounds of evicting a guest applicable in hotel industry, like hotels and lodge. Number one is failure to pay a bill. So this happens when a guest is refused or unable to settle their charges or their bill. So na-right ang hotel or ang lodge nga mag-evict sa isa ka guest. Then the Second one is overstaying. So, kani siya kay when a guest stays beyond their reservation or period without permission. So, kanang overstaying. O, like, kumana na ila ang stay din, nagpabiling Japan sila dito. So naay right ang hotel, jud nga mag-evict sa isa ka guest. Then the third one is person of ill repute. So individuals whose behavior or reputation is considered unethical or illegal is naay right ang hotel nga mag-evict sa isa ka guest. So example of this is kanang ang guest kay nag-use og illegal activities like drugs or fraud or like that nga maka-affect sa hotel. And then the fourth one is intoxication and disorderly conduct. So kani guests are under the guests that are under influence of alcohol or drugs who causes disruptions. Also, kanang bitang mga guests nga kanang gikan og bar then mo balik sa ilang hotel nga wala dito bitaw ang mga actions. So kani naay right ang hotel nga mo evict ato nga guests if dili na jud nila makontrol ang guests, if dili na madala og warnings or unsa pa nga mga kuan. And the fifth one is contagiously ill guests. So kani siya is kana mga guests nga nagsuffer from highly infectious disease that may pose a risk to other. So example of this is kanang mga guests nga naay severe case of kanang infectious kanang makapasa bitaw og mga sakit sa other nga guests. So na sila'y right nga ang hotel nga mag-evict ani nga guests. Then the sixth one is breaking house rules. Kani siya kaning naga gi-break nila ang policies or regulations sa isa ka hotel or create sila violations sa specific nga property specific regulations sa isa ka hotel. Pwede sila nasa lang right nga mo evict. And then the last one is persons not registered. Crucial jud kaayo sa guests like sa hotel nga mo evict ang isa ka hotel nga dili i-registered or dili nila guests nga naka-registered sa hotel, pwede sila mo evict o kato nga person kung kinsa man to siya. All the grounds of eviction is maka-help siya to maintain the safety and then the reputation of the hotel establishment.
Next up, persons without baggage. Historically, hotels could refuse a room to a would-be guest without baggage. Today, absence of luggage that itself indicates illegal intent. In the past, ang hotel could refuse to provide a room to a would-be guest nga wala gibisag isa ka luggage. That is part of their policy sa hotel. What do you think are the possibilities nga nung dili sila mohatag og room sa guest nga wala gadala og luggage? Karon, ang concern man gud ana sa una is that kanang nga tao is dili siya traveler para need niya og room, but rather kanang nga tao is intending to use the room for prostitution or some other immoral or illegal purpose. Dili ita sure ana nga need siya og room to stay para mapahulay siya kauban ng iyang uyab or asawa. Pero di ay tuod kato di ay iyang kauban na unconscious na bae is iya hatong i-rape. So sa panahon ron, ang kanang nga rule would likely not be sustained by a court. Dili pasabot pag walay gidala nga luggage ang tao na gusto mag-check-in is naa dayon daotan nga buhaton. Dili kay puro ta-assume. So what if gusto gyud ay niya nga magpahuway unya ni refuse ka kay tungod wala siya gadala og luggage. So dili na siya pwede. Because that is not enough evidence na naagid siya daotan na himuon sa sulod sa hotel. Next up, business competitors cannot be refused for seeking accommodation. Dili pwedeng balibaran ng usa ka guest nga dididog room because hotels have a legal obligation nga mo-provide og accommodation to all lawful guests without discrimination, as long as the guests follow the hotel rules and intend to use the room for legitimate purposes. Next, can be refused for coming to solicit customers. They can be stopped by obtaining a court order known as the injunction, which legally prohibits the competitor from using the hotel's property to solicit customers for their business. By the way, kung moingon ta og injunction, ang meaning ana is a court order that requires someone to stop doing something or to take specific action. Next up, court order may be obtained to bar competitors from continuing such solicitations. A court can issue an order called an injunction if the hotel files a lawsuit and proves that the competitor's actions harm its business or violates its rights. The court then legally prohibits the competitor from continuing those actions. Kung sa ka business competitor mo anhi sa hotel seeking accommodations, dili sila pwede balibaran. But a business competitor who comes to a hotel para mag-solicit og customer can be legally stopped, meaning a court order can bar them from continuing such solicitations. In Champi v. Castle Hot Water Spring Co. 233p 1107 Aris 1925, a competitor gigamit niya ang hotel property to arrange horse rentals with the same guests. So the hotel sued and the court stopped the competitor via injunction. So from conducting business on the hotel's property, ruling that the hotel is not required to let competitors use its facilities for their business. So the hotel sued and the court granted the injunction, so prohibiting defendant from taking any horses or defendant's property, said the court. Now, I'm gonna ask you guys a question. Has an innkeeper has the right to refuse a competitor access to the premises for the purpose of competition when the presence of the latter is requested by one of the former's guests? The answer in that question is yes. The owner has the right to exclude competitors from using their private facilities. Lain pagkaayo guys no nga ang inn nagparenta sila og kabayo unya ang guest is sa kompetensya sa inn siya nag-rent. So another one, suppose a hotel offers food and room services and a guest orders food to be delivered at the hotel by a competitor. So can the hotel refuse admittance to the competitor, making the delivery impossible? And the answer, Anna, is yes, because such services will lower the hotel's keeper's volume of business and therefore constitute outright competition. Same goes to the horse rental. So, ano man gud na siya? If the hotel chooses to grant permission to the competitor to carry on the business at the inn, the hotel can charge a fee for the privilege of using the hotel's premises and for access to the guests. Okay, so what if the situation is like this, no? The hotel does not offer food. Can the inn select one or a few exclusive food preparers and exclude others from doing business on this premises? Is that yes or no? The answer to that is yes. So the hotel has legitimate interest in protecting the level of service provided. So as we studied, no, the hotel has a duty to exercise reasonable care for the well-being of its guests. So by selecting certain companies that will be allowed to offer food to the guests, the hotel is furthering these obligations. It is also has a rightful interest in maintaining its reputation, which could be adversely affected by allowing unknown or substandard food providers on the premises. So without the hotel's legitimate interest in the guest's well-being and its own reputation, the hotel would not be able to restrict guest choice of purveyors. Next up, process of eviction. Evicting someone from a hotel or restaurant for cause is proper. Dapat it should be carried out considerately without using harsh words, or force should be used unless absolutely necessary. A wrongful eviction can result in liability not only for physical injury, but also for mental and emotional distress towards that person na inyong i-evict sa inyong establishment. Excessive force. Unnecessary force or the course of an eviction can lead to liability for the torts or assault or battery. So for example, a landlord aggressively grabs a tenant's arm and shoves them out during an eviction. So this unnecessary force could result in liability for assault or battery. Assault in tort law means intentionally putting someone in fear or harmful physical contact. So, example, kanang bitong mo action siya o kanang igon tong tao in aggressive way. Tapos syagit-syagitan dayon, dwelling threats ba? So, making the other person fear they're about to hit. Even if no kanang physical contact happens, di ba pag action ng tao sumbag, mahadlok ba yada yung ta, mulikay ba yada yung ta diretso. So, bisag wala agad ta na igo, matawag ya ko na siya og assault. So, the tort of battery means causing harmful physical contact to a person. Intentionally punching someone in the face is an example of the tort of battery. So, for example, yanani, battery occurs where a hotel or restaurant owner or kanang employee iyang gibira ang isa ka patron or let's say guest nga iyang gituklod para makagawa sa premises bisag walay hinungdan. So, mao na siya. So, I have a case sample here. Please listen kindly. To make it sure about the situation that happened to this case sample, a man sued a hotel owner for assault and battery after being hit with a pipe during an altercation. The plaintiff claimed he was invited by a guest, ordered to leave without reason, then beaten as he tried to comply, causing serious injuries. The hotel owner argued the plaintiff entered without permission, refused to leave, and used force only to defend himself. The court ruled in favor of the plaintiff, stating that while a hotel can revoke permission and use reasonable force if someone refused to leave, the jury found the hotel owner used excessive force. The judgment was upheld. Now the question is, the jury believed that the guest's version of the facts. Based on that version, what did the hotel manager do wrong? How should he have handled the situation? To answer this question, the hotel manager used excessive force by hitting the guest with a pipe, causing severe injuries. Instead, he should have handled the situation calmly, called law enforcement if the guests refused to leave, and avoided physical confrontation unless absolutely necessary for self-defense. Now for the second question, why did the appellate court refuse to substitute its own opinion for that of the jurors? Now to answer this question, the appellate court refused because the jury is responsible for assessing the credibility of witnesses and weighing the evidence. Courts typically defer to the jury's findings unless there is clear evidence of legal error or bias. Evicting someone from a hotel or restaurant is allowed, bisan pag bali-balihon, pwede gina siya. Only if there's a valid reason though. But it must be done respectfully. Using harsh words or unnecessary force can lead to legal trouble. Wrongful eviction can result in lawsuits and physical, mental, or emotional harm. Excessive force during eviction or threatening or physically harming someone can lead to lawsuit for assault, threat, or harm, or battery, actually physical harm. Example, a hotel owner was held liable for battery after wrongly using force to evict a patron. That's very wrong. The patron can sue you or your hotel for doing that. Now next up, how to evict. First, inform person he is no longer welcome on the premises or should leave. If he remains, second, request should be made. If he still refuses to leave, call the police, use force. Forceful eviction should always be the last resort. Hotel and restaurant can evict guests for valid reason like non-payment, overstaying, disorderly behavior, illness, breaking rules, or soliciting customers. They can also evict non-guests or those not ordering. Eviction must be handled politely, starting with a clear explanation and request to leave. Pag dili mo sugot na pahawaon ninyo sila, permi mo i-reject, then that's the time you call the police for the assistance. So force is only allowed as a last resort and must reasonable to avoid injury or liability. Discrimination based on race, gender, and other protected characteristics or personal reasons can lead to wrongful eviction claims. Guests can be evicted for valid reasons, but tenants require a court order due to stronger legal rights. False accusations during eviction can lead to defamation lawsuits. Employees must act carefully as their actions reflect on the business. Now you guys tell me the outlines or the proper steps for evicting someone from a hotel or restaurant. It's already there as you can see. First, politely inform the person they are no longer welcome and ask them to leave. Second, if they don't leave, repeat the request firmly. Third, if they refuse, first you have to call the police for assistance. which is the preferred method, or use reasonable force only if necessary and if waiting for the police isn't an option. And always remember, physical force should only be used as a last resort to avoid harm or legal issues. Kay kamo may mahimoan ng dautan. Next up, verbal abuse. Defamation tort of making false and demeaning statements about a person to a third person. Libel, written defamatory statements. Slander, oral defamatory statements. I have a sample case here that shows the consequences of mishandling an eviction verbally. So what happened is that a guest who had paid her rent and tried to pay for another week was told to leave. The hotel manager loudly said, "We do not want you here," in front of the others in the lobby, and locked her out of her room. The eviction was motivated by her involvement as a witness in a legal case against the hotel's owner. Impact on the plaintiff? Para sa inyo. Kung yun ato ang pagtrato sa inyong lanner sa inyo, ang sa inyong bation. Di ba maulaw ta? Malain ta kay nganong giyunaanak ta. So she felt embarrassed and distressed, claiming her reputation was damaged. Now, for the court's decision, the court found the eviction was done with intentional malice and disregard for the guest's rights. So the court awarded punitive damages, which are meant to be punished the hotel for wrongful and willful misconduct. So guys, always remember, eviction must be handled respectfully and lawfully, without malice or unnecessary embarrassment, to avoid legal consequences for the business. Now, for evicting a hotel tenant, a tenant is considered by law to have a greater interest in the apartment than a guest has in a hotel room. A tenant is someone who rents the apartment and has the right to live there as long as they follow the lease rules. They can only be evicted through a legal process like going through court. A hotel guest, on the other hand, has a temporary right to stay in a room and can be asked to leave anytime by the hotel for valid reasons, without needing a court order. Tenants have more legal protection and longer-term rights than hotel guests. So greater interest prevents a hotel or landlord from evicting the tenant without a court order, because a tenant has more legal rights and a longer-term connection to the property. A hotel or landlord can evict them without going through a legal process, which usually involves obtaining a court order. This is to ensure the tenants' rights are protected and they are not unfairly removed. Again, I already said it earlier, ang hotel or restaurant, pwede sila maka-evict o guest for reasons like wala sila nagbayad, overstaying sila, disorderly conduct, na ay sakit, or kanang wala nila gisunod ang patakaran. So, apil na po ang ilang competitors, And also, the non-customers may be evicted. Ang eviction should be handled calmly and without force when possible. So, if ever, naakay ka ng guest na gusto i-evict or ipahawa, first thing na imong buhaton yun is that the person should be informed that they are not welcome. And if they refuse to leave, the staff can call the police for the assistance or use reasonable force like calling the guards to evict them. So, hotels must have valid reasons for eviction. Dili na pwede nang nakay kalagot anang tawhana bantog imong i-evict. That is not allowed, because evicting someone based on personal or discriminatory reasons could lead to a lawsuit. So, employees should be trained on proper eviction procedures, and false accusations could result in defamation claims. Tenants have more legal rights than guests, and eviction requires a court proceeding. Refusing a diner. A restaurant not connected to a hotel has more freedom to refuse service than a hotel, because, under common law, it can choose who to serve. Restaurants can refuse to serve anyone as long as they don't discriminate based on factors like race, religion, gender, or disability, which are prohibited by civil rights law. So, for example, a restaurant owner, pwede sila ma-refuse og service sa customer nga gabi ka aggressive or kanang naamoy ka ng standard sa restaurant ninyo, naamoy ka ng dress code na dapat sundon sa mga guests or customer, na dapat formal lang ilang suoton. Unya, gusto gyud siya nga kana maglahi kay comfortable ra siya sa pangbalay nga iyang gisuot. Lain pod bayalan taon, and it's also against the restaurant's policy. So also, they cannot refuse service to someone simply because of their race or religion, as that would violate civil rights law.
So, good morning everyone. I am Manny A. Sombrio. So, let's proceed to defrauding a hotel keeper or restaurateur. So, when we say defrauding, it is the act of deliberately deceiving someone for financial gain or other benefits. It is a criminal offense that involves tricking or misleading someone into giving up money, property, or other assets under false pretenses. So, when we say defrauding a hotel keeper or restaurateur, all states seeks to protect the innkeeper and restaurateur from guests who attempt to defraud by leaving without paying. Many statutes provide varying penalties depending upon the amount and value of the goods or services received by the absconder. So when we say defrauding a hotel keeper or restaurateur, it is involved obtaining goods, services, or accommodations from a hotel or restaurant without intending to pay or through deceptive means. So we have two types of defrauding a hotel keeper or restaurateur. First is the larceny, the theft of property. So the larceny occurs when someone takes tangible property like food, drinks, or hotel property like towels or electronics without paying or with intent to deprive the business of the item permanently. So like for example, sa ka-guest nga nag-check out sa hotel. Then ang mga items sa sulod sa hotel iyang gistayhan kay ihang gipang dala like ang bathrobe, ang bed linens, or anang mga electronic equipments, knowing they are not included in the price of the stay. So mao to siya ang example sa larceny, theft of property. So the second one is the theft of services. So theft of services refers to obtaining services like a hotel stay, meal, or entertainment without payment, often through deceit or by deliberately avoiding payment, or living without paying the bills. So for example, na isa ka customer nga nagkaon sa ihang meal sa restaurant, then after niya kaon nilakaw siya nga without paying sa iyang mga bills. Mao na siya ang mao na siyang gitawag nga dining or dashing. So mao to siya ang example sa theft of service. So the next is intent to defraud. Intent to defraud is a key concept in many criminal cases involving deception or dishonesty. It refers to the deliberate act of misleading or deceiving someone with the goal of obtaining an unfair advantage, often involving money, property, or services. So we have two types of intent to defraud. We have civil case and criminal case. So civil case, plaintiff seeks compensation. So, the plaintiff or the person or entity bringing the lawsuit typically seeks compensation for losses caused by the defendant's actions. So, ang civil case is nag-involve na siya og disputes between private parties, individuals, or businesses. While ang criminal case is these are brought by the government or like persecution against an individual or entity accused of breaking the law. And the penalties can include jail, fines, probation, or restitution. So, ang criminal case often result in a loss of freedom kanang mapriso. So, to justify penalization requires that the defendant acts with a criminal mental state, usually meaning intentionally. A person acts intentionally when his conscious objective is to engage in the legal conduct. So, the law requires that the defendant acted intentionally, meaning their goal was to engage in the legal conduct. So it must be shown that the defendant consciously decided to avoid payment. Not only that the non-payment was accidental lang or misunderstanding lang. So to establish a defendant's guilt of a crime, prosecutor must prove two elements. So we have two elements. Defendant obtained food or lodging without paying for it, and the second is defendant intend to avoid payment. So ang first is the defendant obtained food or lodging without paying for it is mo ni siya ang defendant nga nag-receive sa benefit like meal, accommodation, or service, and mo ni siya ang nag-obtain sa food or lodging without paying. And next is the defendant intend to avoid payment. The defendant actions like using a fake name or sneaking out demonstrate a deliberate effort to evade ang payment. So example of intent to defraud, like defrauding a hotel. So a guest checks into nag-check-in siya sa usa ka luxury hotel under a false name and provides a fake credit card. So they stay for 3 nights and nag-order og room service, and then nag-leave early in the morning without checking out or paying. So the guest obtain so ang guest na obtain niya ang lodging and services like room stay, room service nga without paying. So the use of a false name and fake credit cards shows their intent to avoid payment. So naitabuan ni is the guest could be charged with thief or services or fraud in a criminal case. So next example is pareha ng gitawag nga dining and dashing. So a customer orders a meal at a restaurant, then iyang gi-consume and then nag-sneak out siya of the restaurant nga without paying. So security cameras capture the person intentionally waiting for the server to be distracted before siya muhawa sa isa ka restaurant. So the customer received food and consumed it without paying. So their deliberate act of sneaking out demonstrate intent to avoid payment. So naitabuan ni the customer could be charged with theft of services or fraud. Maunto siya. So in both examples, the prosecution must present evidence of the defendant's information, sneaking out, or other deceptive behavior to prove nga intent to fraud jud to siya. So next is the fraudulent payment. So fraudulent payment occurs when an individual knowingly uses false or unauthorized methods or payment to obtain goods, services, or money. So this is a criminal act involving deception to mislead the recipient into believing the payment is valid. So we have two types of fraudulent payment: bad checks and credit card fraud. So bad checks, check for which the maker has insufficient funds, check written on a closed account. So ang bad check is a form of payment that cannot be honored due to insufficient funds or the use of an invalid account. So mo ni siya ang check nga with insufficient funds. The maker writes a check knowingly there isn't enough money in their bank account to recover it. So ang check written on a closed account is mo ni siya ang the maker writes a check on an account they know that has been closed, making it impossible for the recipient to receive the funds. So the second one is the credit card fraud. So this involves the unauthorized use of a credit card to make use a payment. So using a stolen credit card, the person knowingly uses a stolen credit card to purchase or obtain sa mga services. And forging the card's owner or signature. Card owner signature. So the person signs the name of the rightful card owner on the receipt or transaction to create the appearance of authorization. Copying of card owner signature. So like for example sa bad check. A customer write a check for worth 11,200 restaurant bill but knows they only have 2,800 pesos sa ilang bank account. So the check bounces when the restaurant attempts to cash it. So the customer could be charged with fraud or theft as they knowingly issued a check they couldn't cover. So example of credit card fraud. So a person steals a neighbor's credit card and uses it to pay for a hotel stay. So they sign the neighbor's name on the receipt to make the payment appear legitimate. So ang naitabuan ni is the individual could be charged with credit card fraud, theft or services, and forgery. So ang mga legal consequences ana is writing bad checks or committing credit card fraud are criminal offenses. So penalties may include fines, restitution, like repaying the victim, or probation or jail time depending on the severity of fraud and the amount involved. And repeated offenses or high value fraud can result in harsher penalties. So next is the criminal possession of stolen property. When a person knowingly possesses stolen property with intent to benefit someone other than the owner. So criminal possession of stolen property, this occurs when someone knowingly possesses stolen property and intends to benefit either themselves or someone else or other than the rightful owner. So the key elements of this is the property must be stolen, the possessor knows it is stolen, and the possessor intends to keep or use the property to benefit someone other than the rightful owner. Like for example, a person uses a stolen credit card to purchase expensive electronics. So they know the card is stolen but use it to make the purchase for themselves or to sell the items for profit. So ang outcome money is they can charge with criminal possession of stolen property and potentially theft or fraud. So the next is forgery. Unauthorized alternation, completion or making of a written instrument, check or credit card with intent to defraud or deceive. So forgery involves the unauthorized alternation, completion or creation of a written document such as a check or credit card with the intent to defraud or deceive another personal or entity. So ang key elements ani is unauthorized action like altering a check, signing another person's name, and next is the intent to defraud or deceive. And the document is used or intended to be used in a transaction. Like for example, ang person alters the amount on a check from 5K to 56K and attempts to cash it. So someone forges a signature on a stolen credit card receipt, make an authorized purchase. So ang naitabuan they can charge with forgery or potentially theft or fraud. So, ang consequences ani nila is criminal possession of stolen property. Penalties depend on the value of the property and can range from misdemeanors to felonies. So, consequences may include fines, restitution, or imprisonment. So, forgery is the typically felony, and penalties may include prison time, probation, and restitution. So, the severity depends on the value and intent of the forgery. Next is a guest who steals property is liable for the crime of larceny. So, a guest who steals property like from a hotel or restaurant commits the crime of larceny. Larceny involves unlawful taking property belonging to another person or entity with the intent to permanently deprive the owner of it. So, the severity of the charge, misdemeanor or felony, depends on two main factors. The state laws. State law is the different state have varying threshold for what constitutes a misdemeanor or felony larceny. The second is the value of goods stolen. The higher the value of the stolen property, the more likely it is to be classified as a felony. So, misdemeanor larceny applies when the value of the stolen goods is below a certain threshold, 28,000 to 56,000, depending on the threshold set by the jurisdiction. So, penalties may include fines, restitution, community service, or jail time. Typically, kanang less than a year. So, while the felony larceny applies when the value of stolen goods exceeds the state's threshold for a misdemeanor. Penalties are more severe and may include higher fines, restitution, and imprisonment. Ano siya ang more than 1 year, more than a year. So, misdemeanor or felony depending on the state involved and value of goods stolen. So, maura to siya, and thank you.